Forgive me for my little bit of sobriety. Yeah, it's an intense day in the news. We might be headed towards an atomic war, a third world war with Mother Russia over the Ukraine. Now, I have mixed emotions about this. And Ukraine has been betrayed by the world in the past and the present. It was being attacked unwarrantably by the Soviets, not the Soviets, the Night of the Living Dead gangster state that was formerly known as the Soviet Union. Putin, the dictator, or Don of the Don, wants to reestablish the borders of this former Soviet Union. And one of the prize packages there is the breadbasket of the previous state of the Soviet Union, Ukraine. Now, Ukraine has been betrayed by the Soviets and Russia quite a bit. In fact, Russia originally was settled by the Ukrainians. The Ukrainians were the first Russians and settled in Kiev when they came across the Asiatic landmass as Vikings. Of course, they were turned to a backwater breadbasket by the Tsar. Moscow and Leningrad became the capitals. Kiev was back there. And then, greatest betrayal was the genocide that was inflicted on Ukraine in the 1930s of starvation, forced starvation, artificial starvation by Stalin. Probably one of the Ukrainian Holocaust that, in terms of sheer numbers, equaled the murder of the Jews. 6 million Jews, 7 million Ukrainians were starved to death. And then the Ukraine was caught between the two totalitarian powers and totalitarian dictators, Stalin and Hitler, the Nazis. And territory was fought over. Now, the trail of the Ukraine kept going. In the 1990s, I believe, the Russia at that point was a semi-democracy, though drifting along. It had turned, the Soviets had fallen, and they were ruled by the drunk Yeltsin, who sobered up enough to grant Ukraine independence and assurances that if the and we, you know, it's assured that the Ukraine that if they gave up their atomic weapons, they would have the assurances by the Russians and the United States that they wouldn't be invaded. Didn't quite work out that way. When Putin rose to power in Soviet or Russia, the Russian Republic, and turned it into a dictatorship, he reneged on his promise and wanted to take over the Ukraine again and actually undermine the Ukrainian government or Ukraine. Now they're in a war that's impossible to win. Quite honestly, we're sending millions of dollars to the Ukraine to bleed Russia. But what we're doing is we're with American steel and American armaments, European armaments, we're bleeding the Russians. But we're bleeding the Ukrainians. Quite honestly, there are 150 to 200 million Russians and 37 million Ukrainians, and they can't sustain these cash items. So the Ukraine will fall in time. We'll just run out of Ukrainians. Added to this, the Russians have a double standard. It's okay for them to blow you up, us, we blow you up, but you cannot blow us up. So as we give more weaponry to the Ukrainians to attack Russians and Russian soil, the Russians threatened to use atomic weapons, tactical atomic weapons. And for the first time since the Second World War, nukes will be used. It's a 50-50. Well, they will be. That sobers me. Nothing would rain down on my parade more than a limited atomic war in Europe. Although, I guess I could lead light my apartment. Now, added to this, there's an injustice going on in here. Speaking of Soviets, um, our district attorneys are far left Soviet type Marxists, and they are basically letting criminals run free, particularly of the mentally ill type, psychotic, and if you defend yourself or defend innocent people who are being attacked, like that glorious man, the Marine Penny, you will be accused of murder. If the psychotic Michael Jackson impersonator dies, but as you try to restrain him from attacking people and murdering people. It's ironic that the Michael Jackson impersonator was impersonating Michael Jackson, of course, the notorious pedophile. Talented pedophile, mind you, but a pedophile nonetheless. Now that the human excrement that was the Michael Jackson impersonator is probably burning in hell right next to Michael Jackson himself on the rotisserie. Talent will not bring you a reprieve from the hell you belong. And you may say, well, he was mentally ill. It's not his fault that he was psychotic. It's his fault that he was taking drugs that added to his own instability. It was his fault that as he not taking his meds, he was attacking and injuring and maiming people and molesting little boys. That's the murder, the murder or potential murder of those people on the train. So, train psychos on the train. I think the thing to say is I look fairly good now. So yes. Gotta find something more humorous in the situation. It's really difficult to see innocent people hurt. Anyway, goodbye. Trump will save us, God and God.